Hi, my name is Mike Bakke. I'm in just west of Sparta, Wisconsin. Today's October 3rd. I am at a pond where I store my minnows when I go fishing or when I'm done fishing. This last Saturday, October 1st, I was contacted in the afternoon by Wisconsin Game Warden Matthew Majeski by telephone. He made arrangements to meet me at my house. About 20 minutes after that phone call, he didn't tell me what the conversation was about or what he wanted to talk to me about, but when we did get to talking, he had said that it had to do with fishing. He asked me about some fishing that I had done in the past, and I kind of struggled for the information, but I did recall fishing a couple of weeks early. My elderly uncle came up from Milwaukee. Fished Friday and Saturday in the Bakke area. Friday we got up in the morning, left my house, stopped at McDonald's in Sparta. We got a 5-pound bag of ice and 2 cups of coffee. We drove to French Island to Bob's Bait on the 19th where we purchased minnows. I have the receipt for that date. And we went and launched the boat at Bakke, close to the dam. We fished all over that area, across the river, downriver, either side of the interstate bridge. Ended up back in the pocket next to the long wall. It was about dark and we finished fishing. We came home, hooked the boat back up, came home, stopped here at this pond. And the reason I'm recording this, I want to do as accurately as possible reenact what happened that night. It was dark. We pulled up with my boat and my vehicle to this spot at this pond, where I went to the back of my boat and pulled out my cooler and the bucket that contained the minnows, which I will do now. I approached this spot on the shore with my minnows and the fish that I had on the ice. Mind you, it was a 90-degree day, so most of this ice had melted. I'm in the headlights of my vehicle because it's dark. And I took the minnows that I had in here. I had some willow cats and I had some fatheads. There was probably a dozen fatheads. There's maybe 6 or 7 willow cats left in the dozen. Those minnows are expensive. I don't like to spend a lot of money. I like to save my minnows so I can fish again in the future. I went over here to our pond where I took these minnows. We have a holding pen here. Which I pulled in. Inserted the minnows from the bucket into the minnow bucket, closed the lid. The water in this bucket is from Bob's Bait that the minnows came in. I then went to my cooler. This cooler, these fish were on ice all day, and I looked in the cooler. I wanted to save some small bluegills for cut bait, because I was planning on fishing again within the next couple of days. I took about 6 or 7 of these small panfish out, put them into this fish bag with this locking top. Both are sealed. This has some rocks in it so it sinks, so it's raccoon proof. Throw them back into the pond for future use. The water from the bait store splashed out on the shore. Put the bucket inside on top of my panfish and went back to my vehicle. My boat did not run good that day. The following day on a Saturday we decided we would try to fish off a shore off the long wall at Dresbach with twister tails. We did not have any minnows along with us. Again, we stopped in the morning for a cup of coffee. No ice. Took this same bucket here, the same 2-gallon bucket, out on the wall where we fished. We cast it with twister tails. We put maybe 25 or 30 fish in this bucket and headed back to the vehicle after it started getting hot. Again, it was one of those 90-degree days. I dumped the fish in this cooler, which I still had in the back of my truck from the night before. I dumped the fish into that cooler and went down to get some water from the river to put on those fish so they wouldn't dry up on the ride home. We drove up to the scenic overlooking the Crescent so I could show my uncle what everything looked like there. We made a few stops on the way home. Then we did eventually make it to my house in Sparta where those fish were dead. We cleaned and ate them all. We had a pretty nice fish fry. There was a few fish left over, about a dozen small bluegills, which I bagged and froze. I showed them to Mr. Majeski in my freezer. 4 of us will verify that we ate those fish that we brought home that day, all of them. A few days later, I got my boat tuned up. I came back down here, removed this fish bag from the water. All of the minnows were still alive. I lost 3 of the bluegills, but there was, I believe, 4 that were still alive, which I did use for cut bait on that Wednesday or Thursday when I went back out on the river. I knew that our conversation with Mr. Majeski and myself was going to be recorded by him. I contemplated that, so I also recorded that conversation that we had. And I transcribed every word of it off of that recording between Mr. Majeski and myself, so that if this ended up being a legal case, there would be no misinterpretation of the wording in his of an email address my uncle received that day. That explains how you can contact my uncle who's fishing with me, as I want to cooperate 100% in every way with this investigation. Since the time I was able to hunt for fish, I've always lived by the letter of the law. I've always got every possible fishing and hunting license to make things legal. I've always lived by the limits, never had a problem with the DNR, although I've dealt with them in the past and know what they're like. So I wanted to protect myself. I'm currently partnered up with the DNR office in Madison, David Riddell. I just withdrew my offer to assist him in a project, as I did all the other Wisconsin game wardens and state employees. Because of this issue, I will not speak at county parks anymore or assist in bat houses around the state until this thing is settled. I'm now waiting to hear from Officer Majeski to see how he's going to pursue this matter. Thank you.